I never told my son about what I kept locked in the third-floor attic of our Victorian home in Portland. After 42 years of marriage, after losing my wife Margaret just 8 months ago, I suppose I thought I had time. I thought Michael and I would eventually have that conversation, father to son, about family history and what mattered most. But then he showed up to Sunday dinner with Vanessa, and everything changed. The moment I opened the door that September evening, something felt wrong. Michael stood there with this nervous energy I hadn't seen since he was a teenager, caught coming home past curfew. The woman beside him couldn't have been more than 26, maybe 27. She had perfectly styled blonde hair, designer clothes that screamed expensive, and a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "Dad, this is Vanessa," Michael said, his voice too bright, too eager. "My fiancée." I felt my hand freeze on the doorknob. "Fiancée? Son, you never mentioned you were even dating someone." Vanessa extended her hand, her grip firm but cold. "It's been a whirlwind romance, Mr. Harrison. Sometimes when you just know." Her eyes swept past me, taking in the oak staircase, the original crown molding, the antique chandelier Margaret had restored. What a beautiful home. Victorian, right? These old houses are worth a fortune now. That should have been my first warning. Michael had always been cautious about relationships. After his divorce 3 years ago, he'd sworn off serious dating. He threw himself into his work at the tech company, visited me every Sunday for dinner, and seemed content to take things slow. Now here he was, engaged to a woman I'd never heard him mention, looking at me like he expected me to jump for joy. I invited them in for dinner, watching how Vanessa's gaze lingered on everything. The silver candlesticks Margaret collected, the Persian rug we'd bought on our anniversary trip. She asked questions, casual, friendly questions about the house's history, its square footage, whether I'd had it appraised recently, for insurance purposes, she added with that same smile. "These older homes need proper coverage." Michael seemed oblivious, holding her hand, laughing at her jokes. My son, who'd spent his whole life being careful, being practical, was completely blind to what I was seeing. Or maybe I was just a paranoid old man missing his wife, and unable to accept that his son had found happiness. But then came the question that made my blood run cold. "I noticed you have 3 floors, Vanessa said as I cleared the dinner plates. "Do you use all the space? Michael mentioned you built a successful architectural firm. You must have quite a collection of old blueprints and documents." I met her eyes then. Really looked at her. There was something calculating there. Something that reminded me of the clients who'd tried to lowball me on projects, who saw dollar signs instead of people. "The 3rd floor's just storage," I said carefully. "Old furniture, holiday decorations, nothing interesting." She smiled. "Still, all that wasted space in a house like this. Have you thought about downsizing, Mr. Harrison? A man living alone in a 5-bedroom Victorian seems impractical." Michael shifted uncomfortably. "Vanessa, Dad just lost Mom 8 months ago." "Of course. I'm so sorry." But her tone didn't match her words. "I just meant, eventually. These old houses require so much maintenance, and the property value in this neighborhood has skyrocketed." I made an excuse about being tired and cut the evening short. After they left, I stood in my study, staring at the locked door that led to the attic stairs. Margaret and I had been so careful. The attic wasn't just storage. It held 40 years of architectural blueprints, some from buildings that became landmarks. It held the wall safe we'd installed 30 years ago, containing documents, bonds, and Margaret's grandmother's jewelry collection pieces worth over $300,000. It held the deed to a commercial property downtown that I'd planned to leave to Michael. I'd never told him about any of it. After Margaret died, I kept meaning to, but the grief was so heavy, and Michael was so busy with work. I told myself there was time. Now, watching through the window as Vanessa's expensive car pulled away, I realized time might be something I didn't have. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in 30 years. I called Tom Bradford, a private investigator I'd worked with back when I was vetting contractors for major projects. Tom was retired too, but he still took on cases that interested him. "Bob Harrison," Tom's gravelly voice came through the phone. "Thought you'd forgotten about me." I need you to look into someone. Quietly, this about your son's new girlfriend? Saw the engagement announcement online. My stomach dropped. They announced it publicly? They just told me last night. Posted on social media this morning. She's already changed her name to Vanessa Harrison on her profiles. Tagged your son, your house, everything. I closed my eyes. Tom, I need to know who she really is. Give me 48 hours. While I waited, I did my own digging. Vanessa Martinez, she called herself. Her social media showed a life of luxury, expensive restaurants, designer clothes, exotic vacations. But scroll back 6 months, and the timeline got fuzzy. Photos with different men, all older, all well-dressed. Comments disabled on most posts. And then I noticed something else. In 3 photos from the past year, she was wearing different engagement rings. My phone rang at 2 a.m. on the 3rd night. Tom Bradford's voice was grim. Bob, you need to hear this. Vanessa Martinez isn't her real name. It's Vanessa Morgan. I found 2 previous engagements in the past 3 years. Both times to widowers, over 60. Both engagements ended suddenly, and both men reported jewelry and valuables missing. One filed a police report, but she was gone before they could press charges. Changed her name, moved to a different city. I sat up in bed, my heart pounding. Did they prosecute? Not enough evidence. She's smart, Bob. She only takes things that could plausibly be lost or misplaced. Family jewelry, cash, bonds, things from attics and basements, places that aren't inventoried regularly. The men were too embarrassed to push it. One of them died 6 months after she left heart attack. His family couldn't prove anything. And Michael? She met him at a grief support group 4 months ago. Your son mentioned in the group that his mother had recently passed, that he was managing his father's well-being. She targeted him specifically. I felt sick. My son, trying to help me process grief, had made himself vulnerable to a predator. There's more, Tom continued. She has an associate. Guy named Rick Martinez claims to be her brother, but I can't find any family connection. He's been arrested twice for burglary. They work as a team. She gets engaged, gains access to the house, maps out where valuables are kept. He comes in later when the coast is clear. What do I do? Tell your son. Show him the evidence. End this before she gets what she wants. But I knew Michael. He was stubborn, especially when he thought he was protecting me from loneliness. If I came at him with accusations now, he'd think I was a grieving old man, unable to accept his happiness. He'd defend her. He might even cut me out of his life. No, I needed a different approach. The next day, I called my lawyer, Patricia Chen. I'd known her for 20 years, and she didn't waste time with pleasantries. You want to do what with your estate? Move everything to a trust. Immediately. Nothing in Michael's name until he's 45. All physical assets go to a secure location. I want the attic cleared out professionally, and everything valuable moved to a bank vault. Patricia was quiet for a moment. Bob, this is a major change from what you and Margaret planned. Margaret didn't know our son was dating a con artist. I told her everything. Patricia listened, asked sharp questions, and then said, I'll have the trust documents ready by Friday. But Bob, you still need to tell Michael. I will. But first, I need to make sure there's nothing for her to steal. Over the next 2 weeks, I hired a security company to install cameras throughout the house. Hidden ones, not the obvious type. I told Michael I was upgrading the alarm system after reading about neighborhood break-ins. He seemed to accept it. I also started moving items from the attic. The blueprints went to a climate-controlled storage facility. The jewelry went into a safe deposit box at the bank. The documents, bonds, and property deeds went to Patricia's office. I replaced everything with convincing fakes cubic zirconia instead of diamonds, photocopies instead of originals, reproduction blueprints instead of the valuable ones. Then I waited. Michael started bringing Vanessa around more often. She'd ask to use the bathroom and disappear for 10 minutes. I'd watch on my phone as she tried door handles, peered into closets, took photos of room layouts. She was mapping the house. Dad, Vanessa and I were thinking, Michael said one Sunday, his tone too casual. Since you have all that extra space, what if we moved in after the wedding, just temporarily, until we find our own place? It would help you with the upkeep, and we could save money for a down payment. There it was. The setup. That's generous, son, but I'm not ready for that. This house still feels like your mother's, and I need time. Vanessa's smile tightened. Of course, Mr. Harrison. We understand. But the next week, Michael came by alone. Dad, I'm worried about you. You're here all by yourself. What if something happens? What if you fall? Or have a medical emergency? I'm 67, not 90. I know, but Vanessa thinks. And I agree that it would be good for you to have people around. Maybe we could just use the third floor? You'd barely know we were here. The third floor. Of course. Let me think about it, I said. That night, I watched the camera feed as Vanessa's brother Rick drove slowly past my house 3 times. He parked 2 streets over, walked back, and took photos of the property from different angles. He was planning the approach. I called Tom Bradford. I need you to do something. Can you create a situation where Vanessa reveals herself? What kind of situation? Make her think I'm going out of town. Make her think the house will be empty. Tom was quiet. Bob, if they break in, you could be in danger. No danger if the police are already there. We hatched a plan. Tom spread word through channels that Vanessa was likely monitoring, posting on my rarely used social media that I'd be visiting my sister in San Francisco for a week. He even booked a flight in my name, made sure it showed up in reservation systems she might check. Meanwhile, I contacted Detective Sarah Morrison at the Portland Police Department. With Tom's evidence about Vanessa's history, she agreed to stake out my house. The night before my supposed flight, I called Michael. Son, I'm heading to Aunt Linda's for a week. Can you keep an eye on the house? Sure, Dad. Want me to stay over? No need. The alarm system is top-notch. I just need you to grab the mail. Make sure everything looks lived in. I could almost hear Vanessa's wheels turning in the background. Michael must have put me on speaker. Mr. Harrison, Vanessa's voice. Have a wonderful trip. Don't worry about anything here. I'm sure she didn't mean to sound quite so eager. That night, I didn't go to San Francisco. I went to a hotel 2 miles away with a laptop connected to my security cameras. Tom was there with me. Detective Morrison and 2 officers were positioned in an unmarked van outside my house. We didn't have to wait long. At 1:47 a.m., my camera alerts went off. Rick Martinez was at the back door, working on the lock. He was good, had it open in under 3 minutes. He slipped inside, moving with the confidence of someone who'd been told exactly where to go. He went straight for the attic stairs. On my laptop, I watched him climb to the 3rd floor, pull out a crowbar, and force open the locked attic door. I'd left it secured, just enough to seem real, but not enough to stop him. He disappeared into the attic. Now, I said to Tom. Detective Morrison and her team moved in. I heard it through the security audio footsteps, shouting, Rick's cursing as they caught him red-handed with a bag full of what he thought was $300,000 in jewelry. But they didn't arrest him right away. This was the beautiful part. Morrison called Rick's phone from a blocked number. We have your sister. She's in custody. Talking. Rick panicked. She's not my sister, and she doesn't know anything. This was all me. Then why did she send you the house layout? Why are these text messages on your phone showing her telling you exactly where the attic safe is? Rick started bargaining immediately, offering to give up Vanessa in exchange for a lesser charge. An hour later, they arrested Vanessa at Michael's apartment. My son called me at 3 a.m., his voice shaking. Dad, there are police here. They're arresting Vanessa. They're saying, Dad, they're saying she's a con artist, that she was using me to rob you. I checked out of the hotel and drove to the police station. Michael was there, looking destroyed, sitting in a plastic chair with his head in his hands. She showed me the ring last week, he said when I sat down beside him. Said it was her grandmother's. The police say she bought it at a pawn shop 2 months ago. Everything was a lie. I put my hand on his shoulder. I'm sorry, son. You knew. He looked at me, his eyes red. You knew and you didn't tell me. I hired a private investigator. Found out 3 weeks ago. But I knew you wouldn't believe me if I just told you. You'd think I was trying to keep you from being happy. Michael was quiet for a long time. You were right. I wouldn't have believed you. He wiped his eyes. God. Dad. I'm so stupid. You're not stupid. You're human. She's a professional. She knew exactly what buttons to push, how to make you feel like you were taking care of me while she robbed you blind. Except she didn't, because you'd already moved everything. The attic's full of fakes, costume jewelry, reproduction blueprints, photocopies. She would have gotten away with maybe $500 in actual value. For the first time that night, Michael almost smiled. You set a trap, with help from Tom Bradford and Detective Morrison. We sat there as the sun came up, father and son, processing everything. Eventually, Michael said, I went to that grief group because I was worried about you. About us. I thought losing Mom had broken something between us, that we didn't know how to talk anymore. It did, I admitted. I should have told you about the attic, about what your mother and I had saved, what we planned to leave you. I kept putting it off because every conversation about the future meant accepting she was gone. I miss her, Dad. Me too, son. Detective Morrison came out with her paperwork. Vanessa had confessed to everything, trying to blame Rick, who'd already blamed her. They'd both be charged with attempted burglary, conspiracy, and fraud. With their records, they were looking at serious prison time. Your son's going to need to give a statement, Morrison said. But he's not in any trouble. He's a victim here too. Over the following weeks, Michael started therapy. The engagement had been traumatic in ways he hadn't expected, not just the betrayal, but the realization that he'd been so vulnerable, so desperate for connection, that he'd ignored every red flag. I started therapy too. Margaret's death had left me isolated, paranoid, unable to trust even my own son with the truth. We both had work to do. 3 months later, on a cold December morning, Michael came over for coffee. We sat in my study, and I handed him a folder. What's this? Everything I should have shown you months ago. The trust Patricia set up, the property deeds, the inventory of your mother's jewelry, safely in a bank vault, the blueprints that actually are worth money and the ones that are just sentimental. I want you to know all of it. Michael paged through the documents, his expression unreadable. This is, Dad, I had no idea you and Mom had saved this much. 42 years of being careful, of planning for our future, and for yours. The commercial property downtown, Dad, that's worth millions now. It's in the trust for you. You'll get it when you turn 45, or sooner if I decide you're ready. But Michael, I don't want you to see it as money. I want you to see it as what it really is. Time. Your mother and I worked hard so you wouldn't have to. So you could choose a life you wanted, not one you were forced into. My son's eyes were wet. I'm sorry I almost let someone take this from you. From us. You didn't. And that's what matters. How did you know? Really? I thought about Vanessa's cold handshake, her calculating eyes, the way she inventoried my home like a shopping list. Your mother had an expression. She said you can tell everything about a person by how they look at your home. If they see memories and love, they're good people. If they see dollar signs, run. She was usually right. Always right, I corrected. We sat in comfortable silence, drinking coffee, the morning light streaming through the old Victorian windows. Michael looked around the study, and I saw him seeing it differently now, not as an old man's shrine to the past, but as a bridge between what was and what could be. I'm not ready to date again, he said eventually. Maybe not for a long time. That's okay. There's no rush. But I'd like to come around more. Not just Sundays. Maybe help you with the house. Go through some of Mom's things together. I know it's been hard for you to do alone. I'd like that, son. He stood to leave, then paused at the door. The attic, can I see it? The real one, I mean. Before everything got moved, I pulled up photos on my phone. Pictures I'd taken before clearing it out. Margaret's jewelry in its velvet boxes. My blueprints in their archival tubes. Our wedding album. Our tax documents, all the carefully preserved pieces of a life built together. She was beautiful, Michael said. looking at a photo of his mother trying on her grandmother's pearls. She was. And she loved you more than anything. I know. He handed back my phone. Next time, if there is a next time, I'll introduce you first. Before I get serious. Before I let someone into our family. Deal. After he left, I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor. The attic door was still broken from where Rick had forced it open. I needed to get it repaired, get a better lock installed. But for now, I just stood there, looking at the empty space where so many precious things had been kept hidden. Maybe that was the lesson in all of this. The things that mattered most, family, trust, love, couldn't be locked away. They had to be shared, talked about, protected together. I pulled out my phone and called Patricia Chen. I want to make another change to the trust. Bob, we just finalized everything. I know. But add a clause. Whatever Michael inherits, he has to share the story with his own kids someday. About what their grandmother and I built. Yes. But also about what almost happened. About staying vigilant. About protecting family. About learning from mistakes. Patricia laughed. I'm not sure that's legally enforceable. Make it a strongly worded suggestion then. That evening, I got a text from Michael. Having dinner with the grief support group tonight. The real members, not the con artists. Want to join? I smiled and typed back. I'll be there. As I got ready to leave, I looked around the old Victorian house, Margaret's house, our house, soon to be Michael's house. It had almost been stolen by someone who saw only its value, who couldn't see what really made it worth protecting. But we'd protected it. Together, even when we didn't realize we were working as a team, we'd kept what mattered safe. I locked the door behind me and headed out into the December evening, ready to sit with my son and a room full of people learning the same hard lesson we'd all learned. Grief makes you vulnerable, but family makes you strong. And sometimes, the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's simply refusing to let the con artists win.